Bitcoin is currently breaking down from this huge consolidation formation on the daily time frame. We can see a bearish break is unfolding here. And do we need to worry about new yearly lows? In this video I will tell you what is going to be next for Bitcoin in the coming week. I will have a look at several time frames with you because there's a lot of interesting things forming into the charts. I will also have a look at the two altcoins FetchAI and Solana, but about that later in this video. There's a lot of other interesting data to talk about, so watch this video all the way to the end, like the video, and let's dive right into the charts. Earlier this weekend I was posting about Bitcoin opening the CME gap at around $59,049. Bitcoin was seeing a little bit of a rise yesterday evening, but we didn't close the CME gap yet. As we can see here, we didn't close it yet. And the CME gap is still open at this $59,000 level. So let's see if Bitcoin can maybe see more upside from here. And eventually I want to see this close of this gap earlier this week, because that would have a very bullish effect on the market, because we want to see this gap getting closed. And if we then have a look at the 4-hour time frame, we can see that Bitcoin is currently at this huge important support, and we need to hold this horizontal level in order to remain a little bit more bullish for Bitcoin. We can see a lot of touch points in the past happening as resistance and support, and we are again back at this support level. So we need to hold this support, otherwise we can aim for lower targets, and then we could go all the way back to the $52,000, and that is of course very bearish for Bitcoin. So let's see if we can hold this support and maybe see a bounce from this level. And I want to see that Bitcoin is going to separate itself from this level, because that will be a very bullish bounce. But every time we touch a certain level, it gets weaker and weaker, because liquidity is getting pumped into the market, and eventually the liquidity around these levels is getting lower and lower. So eventually I think we will see a bearish break, and then we have to aim for lower targets. And as I was saying, then we can maybe aim for yearly lows for Bitcoin, and then we have to aim for the $51,000. And last week was a bit of a bearish week for the Bitcoin ETFs. We saw a huge outflows in the last week. And let's see if today, when the US markets open, the Bitcoin ETFs can buy more in steadily, because we want eventually see that spike to the top side, just like we saw in the previous months. We saw 3 spikes to the top side. So let's see if Bitcoin can maybe produce another spike, and then we can come to this $20 billion mark, and that of course will have a very bullish effect on the price of Bitcoin. But for now we are seeing a little bit of a decline, and we're seeing a sell-off from the Bitcoin ETF. So let's see what this week will bring us for the Bitcoin ETFs. And on a daily time frame, Bitcoin was in this huge consolidation pattern, and this formation is breaking out currently, because yesterday we saw a huge bearish candle unfolding for Bitcoin. So now that this formation broke out, we can possibly see that this formation is going to have a retest of the previous support to turn it into resistance, and from there we can aim for lower targets. And the lower side of this formation will be the breakdown target, and that will be around the $54,000. But of course we can also potentially see that we're going to go to lower levels, and that we're going to aim for yearly lows for Bitcoin, and then we could possibly go to levels below $50,000, and that will of course be very bearish. So let's see what Bitcoin can do in the coming week, and eventually we want to see of course a regain of this previous resistance level, and maybe even go to the top side from resistance, and that would of course have a very bullish effect on the price of Bitcoin. So let's see if Bitcoin can invalidate this breakdown and maybe create more highs from here. And this resistance around the $61,500 is the big resistance for Bitcoin to break. Last week we saw a huge rejection from this level, so let's see if we can come back to this level. Eventually we want to see a break to the top side, a retest of the previous resistance to turn it into support, and then we can aim for higher targets. But after this huge rejection, we are now seeing a little bit more downside for Bitcoin, so we could possibly also come to this lower side of support again, and this will be a very interesting support. And of course you could also place your limit orders here and buy into the markets for the long term, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Of course this is not financial advice, but at the $52,000 I am buying heavily for more Bitcoin. And of course also this level is getting weaker and weaker every time we touch it, and we can see a lot of rejections here coming into the market. So if Bitcoin maybe tends to break to the top side and come back to this resistance area, we could potentially see a little bit more of a break again after this level. But after this break we want to see that this support is holding strong, and from there we can enter the market in an uptrend, because we are still wanting that trend reversal to the top side. And the month of August is over, and overall the month of August is a little bit of a bearish month, and we saw a Bitcoin monthly return of minus 8.6% in August, And also the month of September is most of the times a little bit more bearish month. And we can see October is always the most bullish month for Bitcoin in the whole year. So of course, it's still in the beginning of September and we're already in minus 1.82%. So let's see what the month of September can bring us, and if the month of September maybe can surprise us that we're eventually going to see green numbers. But I think October will be the biggest month for Bitcoin to take a look at, because this is mostly the bullish month of the year. And we can also see that Q4 also is always the very most bullish quarter of the year. We're still in Q3, and after this month of September we are closing this Q3, and we can also see that Q3 is also always the most bearish month. So let's see if Bitcoin maybe can see some green numbers eventually, and that we're going to eventually close in the green. But that's yeah, maybe a little bit too far from now. But if we're going to see levels around the 65k, yeah, we are going to close in the green. But eventually I think Bitcoin is a little bit more bearish now, and I think that we're going to see a bearish month in September. And the first altcoin I want to have a look at is Solana. We can see Solana produce this horizontal resistance / support area, and we are now seeing a lot of touch points in the past as resistance and support. And every time we touch this support, we saw a huge spike to the top side, as we can see here, here, and everywhere we touch this support. And currently we are back at this huge horizontal support level. So once again, we need to hold the support, and we want to see a bounce to the top side, of course. So this could also be a very interesting place to accumulate more SOL. And of course, every time we touch this area, it gets a little bit weaker and weaker. So we could potentially also see a breakdown from this level, a retest of the support to turn it into resistance, and then we can aim for lower prices. So if we're going to see a break below this area, this could be a possible short setup if you want to short the market of Solana. But of course, we want to see that bullish scenario play out, and that eventually we're going to see a spike to the top side, an exponential move, and we want to gain this first big resistance here, because this is also a very big resistance for Solana on the daily time frame, and eventually these highs are also a very big resistance level. So we're now currently at these lows, and we want to see this exponential move to the top side, and that we're going to see a break of these huge horizontal levels, and that of course will be a very bullish scenario for Solana. But keep in mind that this bearish scenario could also play out, and that we have to aim for lower prices. Another very interesting altcoin I want to have a look at is FetchAI. We can see FetchAI was in this huge downtrend, in this falling wedge formation. We had multiple touch points on the top side as resistance, and also multiple touch points on the downside as support. And we also see these horizontal levels coming into play, and we've eventually, some weeks ago, we bounced from this huge support area, and this was also a very interesting accumulation zone for Fetch. And we're seeing a huge pump to the top side. We broke out of this falling wedge formation, and now we are seeing a bit of a retest of this horizontal area. So we broke this horizontal area bullish, and we are currently retesting this previous resistance as support. So if this support is holding strong, we can maybe come to this next big resistance area, and that will be around this level, and it will be around the $1.7. So if we're going to see a huge strong support coming into the market for Fetch, then we can continue the bullish uptrend. And eventually the top side of this formation will be confluent with the breakout target, and it will be around the $3.4. So this is still a long road for Fetch to make, of course, but this is the breakout target eventually, and let's see what the FetchAI can do in the coming days and weeks. Please give a like if you find this video useful, follow me on my socials, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.